What is up, For the Rock family? Thank you guys so much for clicking on today's video. This, like some previous videos that have been recently posted over the last few weeks, is a re-airing of a podcast that I published over on Christian Metal Source called the For the Rock podcast. This was kind of just before starting up this channel again. And this originally aired February 18th of 2020. It's a little long. It's about 55 minutes. And this is part 2 of 2. So if you haven't seen part 1, which is For the Rock episode 5, this is Peter from Christian Metal Source and myself going over our top 10 releases of the year 2019. And it was a great time. It was always fun doing this with Peter. And I know that we have been doing a lot of top 10 albums of blah, blah, blah year. There's some great music in here. A couple of the artists I probably wouldn't have put on this list anymore, just knowing what's happened to the bands. But that being said, this was over a year ago. Sometimes opinions change and people change in that time frame. Kick back, relax, enjoy listening to this for the next hour or so. Let me know down below what were some of your favorites of the year 2019. There was so much good music out that year. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new and you enjoy this episode, consider hitting that subscribe button down below with the bell notification just to stay up to date and notified whenever a new video drops from For the Rock. And if you guys enjoy it, hit that like button down below. It's a great help to the channel, and it's awesome to have you here watching. All right, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the podcast. I will see you soon. Welcome back to the top albums of 2019, part 2. I'm your host, Christopher Adam, and this is For the Rock. All right, folks, what a great way to kick off this episode of the podcast. Welcome back to For the Rock, and today we are looking at Peter and I's top albums of 2019. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the previous episode, please pause this and go check that out. We cover our number 10 to number 6 picks each from 2019, and in this episode, we are doing our top 5, so 5 to 1. And man, we just had a great kickoff there, and that was the song Foundation from a new band from my home province of British Columbia. These guys are probably about 5 or 6 hours away from me in a town called Kelowna, British Columbia in Canada. And this town is known for such bands such as Secret Whisper and Cry of the Afflicted. So if you guys have heard of those bands before, these guys are from the same area. And this band is called Cliffside. And they released their debut EP in 2019 called Wilderness. So yeah, they didn't quite make our top 10, unfortunately. But their stuff is too good not to mention, so they are our first honorable mention of this episode. And last week we did cover a few, and we have a few more for this episode as well, just kind of in between our picks. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming back, and your support for this podcast has been so awesome because just hearing your guys' feedback really gives me a reason to keep going and making this, because it's sometimes such a daunting process to put all this audio together. It's not too bad, but it does take time, and I have honestly been kind of procrastinating finishing this episode off and getting through the 2019 picks. And that, unfortunately, is a shame because 2019 was absolutely amazing, and these are the albums that we really, really want to talk about and make sure that you guys have it in your heads to go check out these albums. And finally, after this episode, we can kind of get back into the groove of things and start talking about some amazing 2020 releases that have already started coming out. So without a further ado, I'm going to kick us off with my number 5 pick of 2019, and after that we're going to hear from Peter, and we'll go as usual. We'll do our back and forth until we reach our number 1. So at my number 5 pick, we've actually already talked about this one in the previous episode. This was one of Peter's favorite albums, but it didn't quite land as high as mine did on my list, and that is Norma Jean's All Hail. And yeah, this album is incredible. I remember hearing their previous album, and I thought for a while there, it was probably, I forget exactly when it came out in that year, but in 2016, it's towards the middle of the year, and I thought that was going to be my favorite album of 2016. It ended up getting dwarfed in the end, but All Hail by Norma Jean has stuck with it for me over the past few months of 2019, and it continues to be one that I go back to probably every couple weeks or so here. And I'm going to give you guys a taste of one of my favorite tracks. It's called Translational, and I think this is one of my favorite tracks because lyrically it actually is one of the few tracks that have kind of that overt like spiritual tone in the lyrics. A lot of Corey Brendan's lyrics are interesting and hard to really delve into the meaning of some of it. It's very obscure. But Translational features a line that I really love during the breakdown, and it's giver of faith, I'm on fire with you. And just that one line, I remember when shout out to Kingdom Core on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't checked out Sean's ministry called Kingdom Core, it's really great. He shares a lot of the same music that I've loved growing up and still listen to. He posted, I remember it was right when Norma Jean's album came out, and he posted that, and I'm like, wait, that was one of the lines? I was just like, what? And then I went back and listened to it, and it's really stuck with me. And that one song, it's really great. And so I'm going to give you guys a taste of Translational by Norma Jean off their album All Hail, and this is my number 5 pick of 2019. With you, so we can fade away. Yeah, we can fade away. Some burying with your guilt in the desert, in the bed inside. We can't fly forever, enemy the price and price the enemy.
My pick for spot 5 would be Death Therapy's Voices. I'll be honest with you guys, I never gave much time to The Storm Before the Calm, which was their debut album. But when I previewed Voices on iTunes, I was captivated. Totally sold out for it, bought it on the day of release, I guess. It was such an amazing experience, listening to it track by track. It was then I truly began to appreciate the efforts of this two-man band. Not only was it because of Jason Wisdom's ingenious idea of a two-piece with just him doing the vocals and the bass and a drummer, but also because of the sudden possibilities made known within the realm of industrial metal. I mean, I could never have imagined a metal band with no guitars. But here are these guys creating some brilliant stuff. The tracks are not only multi layered with unique sounding bass lines, but also very well layered with an important theme line on the hope the Bible talks about and how different it may possibly seem in the eyes of the current state of humanity. You're gonna figure that out on the lyrics. I'd rather call it real talk. Jason Wisdom is one of those metalheads most active on social media, and I have particularly noticed him leaving a great amount of influence on fellow metalheads with regards to metal in general, with regards to Christian metal, with regards to the music industry itself and how it works, the artist's perspective on the scene, and even the take on the gospel itself for that matter. This is, in fact, the founding member of BTA becoming the archetype, and to have the vocalist as your friend is a huge deal for me. I'm really impressed with this one, and very glad to have it on the top 2019. Some of the fans had trouble finding out what genre Death Therapy played, but I'm just happy calling it Nintendo Core.
Alright guys, at my number 4 pick, we have one of my favorite Christian metal bands, and I have been a fan of these guys since day one that they signed to Tooth and Nail Records. I remember hearing the news, and I kind of searched them up on YouTube, and I found their song called Heralds, and that to this day is still one of my favorite songs by them. And I have their whole discography, including their acoustic album. They did like a cover album, and even their old demo, even from before they signed to Tooth and Nail, because they had a demo and an EP. These guys are wolves at the gate, and if you have not had a chance to listen to them, you are missing out on really great, biblically based lyrics. These guys, from what I can tell, they they definitely walk the walk, and just the vocals, the mix between Nick Daddy doing the screamed vocals and Stephen Kabuchi doing the clean vocals. It's a really good contrast, and they work together really well. And every album that they have done has a different feel to it. But they all feel cohesive. They all have a Wolves at the Gate tone. And yeah, Eclipse is no difference. This is their newest album. It came out in 2019 via Solid State Records. And this one definitely feels a little bit more gritty sound-wise, and lyrically and tone-wise, it's a little bit darker than their previous stuff, but they still keep the classic Wolves at the Gate and solid lyrically pointing the world to Jesus. And I'm going to give you guys a taste of my favorite track, or one of my favorite tracks, rather, because there's quite a few. But the track Evil Are the Kings. And the reason I chose this, I think the lyrics really stand out to me on this one in the chorus. Not only is the chorus actually super catchy sounding, but also just what they're saying. And it's, if knowledge is the power, then evil are the kings we are. And that, just that sentiment and thinking about that, it is, yeah, it's something that I've kind of thought about and dwelt on a little bit, and even in verse 2, listen and hear the truth. We drown in patience, while anchored to our hatred, we're sinking deeper. Resisting the hand to save, we turn to violence. With armor of apathy, we're getting weaker. And yeah, this song just I just really like it, and it's this whole album is super solid. It's 13 tracks of just really good dynamics and interesting music. And it's not my favorite. I will clarify, it's not my favorite album by Wolves at the Gate, but it definitely deserves its spot on this year's list. So here is Evil Are the Kings off the album Eclipse by Wolves at the Gate.
How many of us listen to non-English albums? Seriously, shoot me a DM and I'd be more than willing to check it out. But I want to give a shout out to my friend Daniel Hosklo on Bandcamp for this incredible find. Thorny Way is a Belarusian band. They are at number 4 on my picks. The lyrics on the album are at point blank Bible verses without a doubt. Unadulterated scriptures laid out in a very simple writing style, a thoughtful and deep sense of lyricism displaying vulnerability and pain, conviction and thirst for the living waters, but for the most part displays the condition of a spirit-filled worshipper, a worshipper with a strong sense and a hope for the return of the King. It's almost as if to say it's more or less like a letter or an epistle written by one of the apostles to the church at Belarus. And interestingly enough, the track-by-track progression leads the listener to a place of stillness and quiet and restoration, and even reaffirmation of the salvation that can be found in Jesus Christ alone. Some say you have to run in order to live, and to live in order to run. This is the theme or the idea behind which the band created a whole new computer game leading up to their first full-length called The Lightness. Since then on, they've gotten better, release after release. And so with 3 full lengths to their discography, Awaken is sure a giant success, one with which the guys have truly mastered their style. Overall, the album is aggressive with some slick technical parts, also some pretty cool opera-style vocals, and needless to say, the riffs are absolutely incredible and epic. You sure cannot pass this one. I am super stoked to see what's in store for these guys, and I'll leave it here with Iyyov. It's the 5th track of the album, making it up to the 4th spot on this list.
Yes, no, so you say you're
man, I forgot how good Thorny Way sounded. Yeah, I didn't put them in my top 10, but Peter, you definitely made a solid choice, and I'm glad that these guys made it on the list. And I will say, if I had to look, it would definitely be, I think the album art for their album would probably be my top 3 of 2019. I was thinking, you guys can let me know. I was thinking about doing a quick little graphic that we could throw up on our Facebook and Instagram about our favorite album arts of 2019, because album art to me is something that I really look to, and it's a great way to set a tone for an album, and it completely kind of sets up what the sound is and just the visual aspect of having something to look at. I really enjoy and I really care about it. And that is also why with For the Rock, when we rebranded this podcast, I launched some album art services. So, I mean, I'm kind of really busy. So, I mean, it's here and there. I'm doing it in between. But I got a few bands that I'm working with right now. And actually, the very first release is coming out this month on February 28th, and it's my good friend Andrew Hopper from Christian Metalhead Brotherhood and his solo project Fire from Heaven. He's releasing his new album that I did the artwork for. It's called The Crusades Against Hell, and it was just it was a blast to work on that, and it was fun, and to see that album up on Spotify later this month will be really, really cool. I've had a chance to listen to it. It's a solid album. I think you guys are going to like it and find it enjoyable. That was not planned. That is not a paid promotion or anything. I just felt like talking about that. But if you have any questions, or you're wanting to know about some album art and get some done, you can email me at fortherockministries@gmail.com. or even message me via my Facebook page or my Instagram. Both are For the Rock. Anywho, so back onto the topic at hand, and I'm going to be giving you guys my top 3 pick for 2019, and I can't believe we're finally in the final 3. These final albums are all so incredibly amazing. This one is probably one of the best Christian metal releases as far as the lyrical content goes in probably the last 5 years or so, at least. And they're super genty metalcore. I don't know. I think there's elements of hardcore in there. And I'm sorry for those people who hate core, but I mean, it just so happens that all the best Christian metal bands are in that genre for the most part. But I feel like we've gotten some flack on Christian Metal Source in the past and talking all about core and stuff, but hey, it's what we're into. So sorry if you're not into it as much as we are, but I think just some of the other more extreme genres have to pick it up sometime for me to really enjoy it. But I have a pretty wide variety in musical tastes. But yeah, it just so happens that all my favorite stuff is mostly in this genre. So I'm continuing the trend with Bloodlines from Texas. There's a couple different ones you need to know about there, but Bloodlines and their album Hostile Minds. This is their debut full-length album. They had an EP a few years back, but they have completely changed sounds, and this album is incredible. We actually featured 2 of the tracks from this album on our 2019 summer compilation album. This is our Warfare, and I'm going to be featuring one of those songs off of that album. And this is the very first track of the album. It's called Ash. And you know what? Just take a listen to it.
my third pick is going to be Empty, a post-hardcore band from South Carolina with their debut album called Hope and the Loss of It. Well, I for one had no clue about these guys. Quite honestly, 2019 was not a find those unknown bands kind of a year for me. Most of the groups on Facebook I was a part of were doing that for me instead. So I simply made sure I bookmarked every single post, bought the music, and tried to figure the rest out myself. Uh, it's a pretty simple band name, but Empty is one such discovery I made on Facebook, and I was totally taken by surprise when I figured they were signed to Solid State already. Immediately fell in love with these guys. You'd find some pretty interesting track names on this thing. The riffs throughout this album are simply beautiful. Not only is the sound mostly post-hardcore-ish, but you definitely sense a little bit of metalcore, rock, and even pop influences here and there. A must-have Solid State record. Take a listen to from a chemist's point of view.
Guys, this next one is a bit of an interesting one, and I gotta start with a caveat, and they don't advertise themselves as a Christian band. The only reason I'm putting them in this category, in this bracket at all, is that after listening to the lyrical content, it's hopeful in the providing light in very dark places. The whole album is really about mental health and anxiety and struggles, which honestly isn't something that I've really dealt with in my life at all. There's been a couple times where I would have said I was depressed, but and it's just normal amounts of anxiety, like going into a job interview or something like that. But I've never really struggled with mental health issues, and so I find it interesting that I connected with an album almost solely about that, as much as I did with this one. But the music itself is just incredibly well put together, and this band really knows what they're doing. But the thing that I was saying about them being a Christian band or not, I wouldn't call them a Christian band, but a couple of the guys in the band are worship leaders at their churches, and I was under the assumption that a lot of the other guys were. There's an interview of them on Radio U, and these guys are called Wait for the Day, and they released their debut album back the first week of January or something like that. In 2019, and it's called The Sun Will Drown. And yeah, this album is just so incredible. But also, before I keep talking about them, they have changed their name. A couple members left, and they decided to kind of rebrand the band and change it. So they are now called Outsider Heart. So if you want to look them up, their album on Spotify will still be under Wait for the Day, I believe. The Sun Will Drown. But the band on Facebook and social media is now called Outsider Heart. And yeah, I don't know. This is an album that so many people seemed to have slept on and just not really heard, and they really deserve some recognition for how good this album is. And it, from the get-go, at the beginning of 2019, we were just getting ready to do the best of 2018 podcast, and so I had this whole thing in my mind. I'm like, oh, okay, like keep an eye out, look for all these albums, and have something in mind for 2019. And this album stuck with me the entire year. I think I listened to it 10 times in the first like 3 or 4 days that it was out. And it's just incredibly awesome, and I really like it. So, yeah, I know it's a little bit of a caveat there. It's one of those bands that are really kind of more hopeful sounding than anything like explicitly Christian. But yeah, these guys I think deserve to be on this list, and yeah, I have to be honest with where I thought this album should land. So this is my number 2 pick. We are going to listen to Nothing Will Feel the Same. Oh man, this is hard. Nothing Will Feel the Same and Erase My Mind, the 2 big first tracks off this album, but they're so good. I'll kick you off with the first track, Nothing Will Feel the Same, from The Sun Will Drown by Wait for the Day. Here we go.
It's Bloodlines at number 2 with their debut album called Hostile Minds. I think from the time their debut EP got out, they started going places. For almost 3 years, there just weren't any releases at all, and I think it was during this time the band actually got closer and closer to finding out their true sound. This release is a giant leap they've taken towards that journey, and each track on this thing goes to show how unique of a musical blend these guys have to offer to hardcore fans. Deadlock, if you guys remember that one, is the single that unfortunately didn't make it onto this album. But when that got out, fans became vigilant about what these guys were working towards. Many of us felt awakened by their fresh, new, aggressive sound. The band definitely took a while to release Babylon and Lineage, but by the time it came out, everybody knew that what was coming next was definitely going to be huge and heavy. The songs on Hostile Minds are groovy, filled with amazing breakdowns. They are almost down-tempoed to the extent that you could almost dance to it. I don't know, but love the cleans on this thing. Great work with the guitars and the vocals. And guys, this is a solid example for a modern hardcore sound. And so just the way the album is laid out is truly appreciable about Bloodlines.
Go ahead and prosecute me. Cut around my neck for standing by my faith.
right, guys, I want to just thank you again so much for sticking around and listening to this podcast. And now, as far as where we are right now, between last episode and this episode, we're already over an hour and 10 minutes, and it's going to be another 10, 15 minutes left here. I know it's a super long time to listen and pay attention, and I just want to thank you so much for the time that you guys spend listening to this podcast. It means the world. And before we get to our final picks, we are at our number 1 picks for both Peter and I. It's insane. We're finally here. These 2 albums that are left are incredible. And please, if you guys want to go listen to anything this year from this podcast, go listen to these 2 for sure. But again, obviously we're recommending all of these albums because they all deserve to be listened to. And before we get to our final picks, I'm going to tease you guys just a little bit longer, And I'm going to play our final 2 honorable mentions because this would be the best time to have them, and we only have the 2 more to go, and then we'll listen to our final picks of 2019. But as far as the honorable mentions go, we're going to listen to a song from Comrades, new album. I was trying to figure out, but I guess it's their sophomore release on Face Down Records. It's their 3rd full-length album. It's called For We Are Not Yet, We Are Only Becoming. And this album, I was actually just listening to today that I'm recording this in the car on the way in to and from work. And man, I really forgot how great this album is, and I'm really sad that it didn't make it into the top 10. They got really, really great lyrics, and just the female-led vocals mixed with some screaming. Like, it's really good, and it's got some really chill moments, really melodic moments, some heavy moments, and it's a good mix, and their sense of melody is so good. So we got to throw them in here. And then we also have another Canadian band. Yes, I gotta rep Canada here, and all the way out from Ontario. My brother's in Cozen. I want to say Cozen. And they released their debut full-length album, A Fearful Wonder. They have a couple EPs from before, but this album takes it up a notch. They got a really good blend of progressive rock, some prog metal in there, and there's, again, just like Comrades. Actually, if you like Comrades, you will probably like Cozen. They have a different sound, but similar genre feel, and a nice mix of light and heavy. And so, go check out both these bands, and here is a preview of both of these albums.
So here we go, kicking it off with pick number 1. Woe to those at ease. This phrase probably rings a bell in your head, but this is a pretty serious proverb from the Bible, a strong expression that eventually led to the band Weeping Hour. For those of you who knew They Will Fall on the Depths of Depravity, you'd probably know the crux behind the message these guys have had a passion for to carry on into their musical journey. Absolutely profound lyricism, one you can connect to at various levels, especially if you come from a place of questions and doubts with regards to the faith. I mean, in my opinion, the beauty of life for a sold out Christian, whether or not he or she is living the radical life, is that he or she always suffers with the understanding of the scriptures in one way or another. For all I know, there's no denial from me on that bit, because for the most part, all that has been happening to me for the past couple of years is somewhat a clear deconstruction of the faith in some sort. As I grow and mature in my relationship with the Trinity, I realize I'm slowly coming to terms with what God is calling me into. This album reflects the person of Jesus Christ in a way I have never experienced before. The more you delve into these guys, the quicker your spiritual lens widens, giving you sort of a visual correction on the way you approach and embrace your faith. So do yourself a favor. If you haven't heard of these guys, now is the time. One of those few progressive technical metalcore bands I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to. You guys have got to give the instrumental track a listen. Pretty astounding stuff, jaw-dropping material. The EP is called Hunger and Thirst, one of the most remarkable albums of the year. So here's Outlier at number 1.
Wow. Okay, I want to just say thank you again to Peter for recording and being part of this. It's a super special thing to me to have you be a part of this, brother. And yeah, just it's so awesome. And 2 years in a row, you have delivered an incredibly solid number 1 pick. Last year with When Forever Ends, and this year with Weeping Hour. And man, okay, this is it. This is my turn to reveal my first. I feel so bad because I kind of cheated with this one. So, honestly, I did not discover these guys. It was until just into January of this year. But I instantly fell in love with this album. More so than I have with almost any other album like in this past decade. It brings me back to the time in like between 2007 2010 when I was first getting into music, where it was just like amazing discovery after amazing discovery, and I just like just the awe and wonder I had of hearing a new band. And like, technically speaking, what these guys do, as some of you have pointed out so graciously in the comments, is like they're not doing anything crazy new or different, but I think what they're doing, just their craft, like, is at such a high professional level for this being like their debut piece of work. It's an EP. So we're giving basically 2 EPs our top albums of the year. And man, when I first heard this, it literally just, I can't stop listening to it. It is February 13th as of the recording of this, and in the last month or about 5 weeks, I've probably heard this album, I don't know, like probably 10 times at least at this point, and I know it's gonna, like, I'm not bored of it at all. It's gonna keep getting played over and over again. I had to buy a physical copy, and this is a very unknown band, and it was thanks to the Facebook page Christian Metalcore. I believe that they were the ones who shared this. And this band is called Rise My King, and they released their debut EP called Nature. And they got, it's I don't know. I don't like getting technical with genres and stuff, but it's probably just very melodic, technical metalcore. They have one song on this album. All 5 songs are incredible, but they have one song called Isle of Skye, and it has some pop punk influences in it. Even like it's like, and the clean vocals to the screams, it's all done by one guy, and the transitions are flawless. The production on this album is incredible. And yeah, I just cannot say enough good things. And the lyrics, they're just so good. Looking back now, the debut track from this came out in August of 2018, and it took until this past summer for them to actually release it. But the song I want to show you guys, it's called Grow With Me. It's the second track on the album. And this song, like all the songs lyrically are just incredible, but I think the way that this verse is sung to the lyrics, everything is just so good that this is the one that I'm going to show you. It's not even my favorite chorus, or even, it's not my favorite song on the album, but this particular verse is one of my favorites, and that's why I'm going to show you guys it. But the lyrics are, without roots, there'd be no branches. Without Christ, there'd be no purpose. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. Without death, there'd be no life everlasting. And it just hits me so hard, and I'm so excited. And this EP right now, this moment, is why I love doing what I do and sharing music with you guys, because it's bands like this that I get like so excited about, and I just want other people to hear it. And I mean, this is at the very end of a nearly hour-long, almost hour and a half long podcast if you put both episodes together. So for the few of you that have made it this far, please give these guys a chance. Please give this a listen. There's a reason why I'm putting this at my number 1, even though I didn't find these guys until this year. But yeah, this is so good. Okay, so this is the song Grow With Me. Actually, no, before I do that, I want to say thank you again one last time. This is the very end of the podcast. I'm going to let this play out just a little bit longer than normal. And yeah, go check out all these bands. Thank you to the bands for giving this amazing year of music. And thank you to all you listeners for listening and following along with us and discovering music. And yeah, we love you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you again to Peter for being on this. Yeah, it's awesome to be part of this community. And thank you again for listening to this podcast. This is the end of our 2019 season, if you will. And we'll be back again shortly and talking about new stuff here in 2020. And we got some really cool stuff planned for this year. All right, guys, without further ado, this is Rise My King, their track Grow With Me, off of their debut EP called Nature. And this is my number 1 pick of 2019. God bless.
Grow!